Hey everyone, my name is David Rao, and I'm the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, Pinterest, and a variety of other places when you search for my name, David Rao, or Make Moments Matter. Tonight, I'm going to be talking a little bit about another Use It and Lose It. I'm going to talk about a couple ideas for Halloween, and some things that you should consider adding, some things you might think about changing. That's coming up in just a minute. First, if you hear me talk about a book, a resource, a video, something you like in one of these videos, I have a page dedicated to all those links. I call it the links page in these videos. Wherever you're watching or listening to this, there should be a caption at the bottom of that. There's a link that'll take you right there, or you can go to my blog, makemomentsmatter.org, and click on the video tab and find it there. That's the first thing. Also, I mentioned this last week, but in just a little over a month, I'm doing a workshop with the Northwest Ohio ORF chapter. That's in basically Greater Toledo, Ohio. If you're interested, you can check out all the information. I have linked that on the links page as well. And then the week later, I'm doing a workshop for Michigan Music Educators Association for their fall conference, and that's at Wayne State University in Greater Detroit. So if you're in Michigan, come and join us that weekend. There's information about that on the links page as well. Okay, and then one more thing. If you are listening to this as a podcast, if you're watching it on YouTube, if you're watching it on Facebook or Instagram or wherever, this is me encouraging you to like and leave if you're listening to it as a podcast, leave like a review. I don't know. It helps people find it. And so if you think this is valuable content, you think it's worth the time, your likes and comments and reviews really do help it get found out there in the ether. So if you're willing to do that, thank you. If you find it valuable, I appreciate it. You like and commenting whatever on the podcast will help it find more people. Okay, so tonight, talking about Halloween, we're going to talk about use it and lose it, things that you might use in your classroom, things that you should consider avoiding. Before I talk specifically about Halloween, as I was thinking about like things from Halloween, like use it and lose it for Halloween, as I was thinking about that, I thought, just in general, we don't say this enough as music educators, but we should, especially to the younger music educators. But we need to, the biggest lose it I hope you get from tonight is that we need to get rid of this idea that there is one way to do this. There is not one way to do this job. And by that I mean in general music education. Because first of all, the jobs are not the same. We're all in different schools. We all have different populations. We all have different sizes of schools. Some of us are teaching K-5. Some are teaching K-6. Some are teaching pre-K through 12. Some are teaching K-8. I mean, like, everyone's thing is different. Some people are expected to teach guitar, and some are expected to never teach any holiday, whatever. Like, everything is so different, just the specifics of our job. But let's talk general about, like, philosophy. There is no one right way. Like, because I think every, like, approach to teaching music education, Kodai, ORF, music learning theory, Feyerabend, Gordon, whatever, all these different ways to teach are all valid in their own way. There is no one right way. And people will go to the mat for the thing that they believe is like the thing that works best. What I will say is, for those people, it works best for them. There is no one correct way to do what you do. And while I do encourage anyone who listens to these things to like go find a levels course, go find a local community, go find a music education group that you connect with, I think that is so super valuable. You may do level 1 ORF and go like, this doesn't really vibe with me. Or you may do level 1 Kodai or music learning theory or whatever and go like, this isn't really, it doesn't work as well for me. I don't know. It's just, it's not, I don't connect with it as well. I personally connect really well with ORF Shulverk. That's why I talk about it a lot. But like, that doesn't mean that's the way that's going to work for every single person. And I think it's hilarious when one group or another is like, well, but we're the one that is most student-centered and focused on the facts and the data. Literally every approach to teaching music education is going to say that they're the one that is most focused on students and on data, whatever, because the people who are part of it believe that it is like the thing that works so well. Well, it works well for them. Anyway, all this to say, there is no one right way. There are many paths to get to the end goal of getting kids to love music and to make music successfully. But like, don't feel like there's one right way and that you don't know it. Because I have done my ORF levels, all of them. I teach ORF level 1, and still there are days where I'm like, am I doing this right? Like, you know, so if you, there are people out there who like, I've done ORF, I've done Kodai, I've done all this stuff, and I'm learning things every day. If you are a new teacher or newer, or even if you're not, just hear again me saying there is no one right way. What you are doing is probably the right thing for you in your school. If not, you make the changes that you want to make, but don't feel like I am less than, or I am not understanding, or I'm not connecting because you know you see other things happening. Just know that like what you're doing in the moment is the best that you can do. Go and do more of that. Take more training, do more learning, but don't feel like you're not getting it because you don't have it. Anyway, there are many paths to get to the end goal. That's what I want to say first. Let's talk specifically about what's happening right now on the calendar. So right now is Hispanic Heritage and Latinx Heritage Month, right? That's happening right now. Halloween is coming up, which is why I wanted to talk about it tonight. So if you wanted to get some of the resources I talk about, you have time to do that. So let's talk about specifically Hispanic Heritage or Latinx Heritage Month. Just in the name. I talked a couple weeks ago about like, what do you call it? Why do you call it that? There is no correct answer. People call it different things for different reasons. If you want to talk more about that, go watch the video I did a couple weeks ago about that. But I think that there are only two ways to do Hispanic Heritage Month wrong in the music room. The first is to ignore it. If you do not talk about Hispanic heritage at all or make any connection with it, I think that is a missed opportunity. Because whether you have students from those heritage lines, those backgrounds in your classroom or not, it is worth it to take the time to recognize people who are part of the Hispanic community, the Latinx community, who have done great things for music or are doing great things for music, or to just like center that population in our conversation. It is worthwhile to do that. So I think one of the only two ways that you can do it wrong is to not do it at all, not talk about it at all. I think the other way you could potentially do Hispanic Heritage Month wrong is to just touch on it in ways that are more of like a parody. So like if you show up and you're like, ooh, Hispanic Heritage Month, and you like wear a sombrero and shake some maracas and be like, that's it, and we're going to do some rhythm activities with maracas, I think you're missing it a little bit. The point is to center that community and center those people and center their stories, not just, sort of use their culture and history to do something that doesn't represent them. So that's why I like to use a lot of books. That's why I like to use a lot of musical examples that are recorded examples. I like to talk about the instruments and the songs and things that come from those countries, and to not just celebrate just one thing, but many things. Because the Hispanic and Latinx and Chicano community is so big that there are so many ways that you can talk about it authentically in interesting ways. So, like I said, the only two ways I think you can do it wrong are if you don't talk about it at all, or talk about it in parody, talk about it in ways that don't actually represent the community that you're supposedly talking about. Okay, so those are the first two things. But there are many, many, many other ways that you can do it. And I already said books, videos, vocal examples, songs, games, all sorts of things that are actually from the Hispanic community that you can bring in and highlight and utilize in your room. Same thing for Halloween. I don't think that there is one right way to do it. Some people don't do it at all. And you know what? That's fine. Some communities have students who cannot participate in the music if Halloween is mentioned, right? Like, I know that. And so if you're like, you know what, Halloween, but I can't really do that. Okay, cool. I don't feel like you have to do Halloween. It's not like so central to what we do as music educators that you like have to do it. I think there are a lot of ways that you can handle Halloween well, and I'm going to talk about a couple of those tonight, and some things that you might consider. But if you're like, I want to do Halloween, I don't know how. just again here, like there is no one right way to do it. You do not have to teach about ghosts and witches and ghouls and zombies. Like, if you want to, and that works with your school and your community, cool. You don't have to. There are many other things that you can do that are related to Halloween or to this time of year that are appropriate and are timely, that are not ghosts and ghouls and witches and whatever. Like, if you're like, you know what, I just don't even want to touch on that. Cool. You could also do, and I made a little list, you could do lessons about candy. You could do rhythmic lessons where you talk about different candy names and you come up with cool rhythm possibilities based on candy. Okay, cool. You could do costumes. Speaking of costumes, kids dress up like all sorts of things. Again, you could bring in, like, what are some things you could dress up as? Superhero. Okay, you could dress up as a fireman. You could dress up as a what? You know, like, you could pull in different occupations and jobs and costume opportunities and use those things for rhythmic or melodic or whatever things that you create. You could talk about candy corn or pumpkins or what things that are like tangential to Halloween but are not necessarily like magic or ghosts or whatever, you know, or like horror. Like, you don't have to do that if you don't want. There are many other ways to do it. The one thing I would say to lose from Halloween, the one thing I would say, like, don't do it. And again, like, do whatever you want. It's a journey. But the one thing I would say not to do is do not equate minor or modal songs with bad, evil, sadness, whatever. Because I feel like that happens a lot of time. Oh, hey, now you know it's Halloween season because we're doing a song in minor. Ooh. Like, no, I would say don't do that, because then that sets up kids for their whole life to be like, ooh, this is a scary song. Why? Because it sounds scary. What about it sounds scary? Inevitably, it's in a minor key or it's in a mode. Minor and modes do not have to necessarily mean sad or bad. And some great examples of that. Lynn Kleiner has this book, SOS Songs of the Sea. There's a song I do every year with kindergarten called The Waves. It is minor. It is about the ocean. Kids get to move up and down. It has instrument exploration. You can do scarf work. You can do all sorts of stuff. And it is minor, and it is not scary or sad. It is just about the deep ocean. Rob Amchen, who I did level 3 ORF with, he has this great book called Modal Melodies, or Modal, I can't remember. I put it on the links page. Let me look. Modal Mosaic. I put the link to that book listing on West Music if you're interested. It is a great book, chock full of tons of examples that are all modal. Modal and minor do not necessarily have to mean bad. So that's the one thing I think that you could do if wrong about Halloween, is if you use that to teach kids minor equals bad or sad or evil or whatever. It doesn't have to. Yes, some of those songs are going to come out more often, but if you're like, but I got all these great songs that are modal and minor for Halloween, then find some more modal and minor songs that you can use throughout the year so that kids don't only associate modal and minor with Halloween, because we don't want them to come away thinking like, it sounds minor, it sounds modal, that's evil or bad or whatever. Again, that's my one thing about Halloween that I would say, don't do that. Anyway, what are some things that you can do and that you can use to make your Halloween a little bit more diverse? So you're not just doing Ghost of John or Tom or whatever version you use. And you don't just use, what's the other one that like I've used? Little Lady Who's Not Afraid of Anything, which is a great book. Go use that. But so you're not just using the same like 2 songs over and over and over. There are a ton of songs out there that are totally cool and great and worthwhile. I did a blog post about one called The Pumpkin on the Vine. I'll try and link that on the links page. I forgot to do that before, but I'll do that now. There are so many great books, so many great themes that you can pull and create and use with. Or use with your lessons to make them sort of Halloween-ish, but not necessarily reuse those 2 songs over and over and over and over and over. The 5 Little Pumpkins Sitting on a Gate is great, but there's so many other things that you can do. 2 books that I want to highlight that you can consider. And I have a ton of lists that are like lists about different holidays or different things that you can use that are great for different times of year. I realized today, like 20 minutes before doing this video, that I have not started a list of like books for Halloween. So I will go and add all of my books at school tomorrow. I put a couple up there already in case you're interested, but I'll keep adding more. of books that you might consider for Halloween. Here are two that I think are great. And not just Halloween. I was talking a second ago about Hispanic and Latinx Heritage Month. Well, guess what? This one could fit right in, but also could fit in with Halloween stuff too. So if you don't know, Dia de los Muertos is a holiday. It's the day after Halloween, actually. It's something that's celebrated in a lot of Hispanic Latin communities, but not just those communities. It has developed most in Mexico from what I can realize, or from what I can research. So a lot of Mexican communities use this. Some students who are like, oh, I'm from Colombia, or I'm from wherever, they may not have experienced this. But it is something that not only has happened in Mexico, but is now so huge in the United States that we can absolutely talk about it in ways that we talk about other traditions that have come over, like Diwali, or I don't know, any other thing that's like big in another part of the world, Holi, or something that's come over from other countries that now are mixing in, becoming a part of American culture. Anyway, Dia de los Muertos, let me read you just a little bit of this book and show you a couple of things. The illustrations are so great. So this is by Roseanne Greenfield Thong and pictures by Carlos Ballesteros. I've never looked at that part before. Okay, so Roseanne Greenfield Thong wrote this other great book that I use, and it's about Twas Noche Buena, which is like Twas the Night Before Christmas, except it has like a Las Posadas and Mexican American slant on it, which is really great. So this book I ended up loving too. So it says, it's Dia de los Muertos, the sun's coming round, as niños prepare in each pueblo and town. For today we will honor our dearly departed with celebraciones. It's time to get started. At home we've adorned our altares with care. They're heaped with recuerdos and good things to share. By the way, in the back is a glossary if you're like, I don't know what a recuerda is. So it has, a recuerdo is, and it has all of those things that are mentioned in the back and explains what they are. Sweet calaveras, so sugary white, they give toothy smiles, but never a fright. A black and white photo of Grandpa Padilla, who's riding on horseback, just like Pancho Villa. And toys for remembering small angelitos. A train and a dollhouse are both favoritos. So it goes through and talks about like what is Dia de los Muertos, how do they celebrate. It gives a lot of great visuals, a lot of great explanations. It's rhyming, it's fun, it uses a ton of Spanish in the book itself. And yeah, it's just a great book to use if you want to have a Dia de los Muertos lesson in your classroom and you want to give a little context. This is a really, really wonderful book. And again, that's by Roseanne Greenfield Thong and illustrated by Carlos Ballesteros. So you can find that. I linked that on the links page, but you can just search it too if you're interested. It'd be a great one to encourage your librarian to get in the library or to get a copy for yourself. What could you do with that? You could talk about Dia de los Muertos. You could do lessons and things related about things you take from the book or stories or elements that, like, how does it relate to other stuff? You could take some of those words and make rhythm, word chains or rhythmic ostinati or things like that based on the words if you wanted. Those are all great things that you could do. But it doesn't have to be necessarily... I mean, you could do it in the weeks leading up to Halloween if you wanted to do something in place of Halloween, or if you wanted to highlight this as well. It'd be a great book to add. And then you could share music or videos or other things about Dia de los Muertos if you wanted. Another book that I shared about last year, but I wanted to bring back because I feel like it would be a great one to reuse, is this book, Creepy Carrots, and I'll tell you how I use it in just a second. This is by Aaron Reynolds and illustrated by Peter Brown. I did this for a concert last year. I talked about it on these videos last year, and so you can go back if you want to listen to the whole teaching process of it. I did it, and the only time we performed it was once for the school and once for parents. That's all. And the tech teacher at my school was like, oh yeah, my daughter quotes that all the time. And I was like, what? And the teacher started repeating this poem that the daughter was saying at home. And the daughter had heard it one time. I was like, this is just like, it was like a fun lesson or whatever, and I might use it again, but like, I just used it for this concert. I don't know if I'm going to use it again. And then I found out that another kid in the school had seen the lesson happen once and was repeating it and using it over and over, and I was like, what? So it must have stuck with her. So I was like, I'm going to try it another year and see how well it does. I don't know. So I was like, this would be perfect for Halloween. You could totally throw it in and add some stuff. So let me just read a couple pages and tell you what I did with this lesson last year. So this is Creepy Carrots by Aaron Reynolds. Jasper Rabbit had a passion for carrots, and the carrots that grew in Krakenhopper Field were the best. Fat, crisp, and free for the taking. He pulled some for a morning snack on the way to school. He yanked out a few on his way to Little League practice. He ripped them from the ground on his way home at night. Jasper couldn't get enough carrots. Until they started following him. He first noticed something strange after the big game against the East Valley Hares. Jasper was about to help himself to a victory snack when he heard it. The soft, sinister tunk, tunk, tunk of carrots creeping. He turned, but there was nothing there. Just my imagination, he thought, but he hopped a little faster. That night, as he was brushing his teeth, there they were. Jasper whipped around, but nothing. He laughed at himself, picked his toothbrush off the floor, and went to bed quickly. The next morning, he approached Krakenhopper Field slowly. He reached for 2 wild carrots. Nothing happened. He bit into one. Nothing happened. Whew, creepy carrots. It was ridiculous. But when he arrived home that evening, "Mom, Mom!" Jasper screamed. "Creepy carrots in the shed!" His mom opened the door slowly. There weren't any carrots, not even the regular kind. "There are no such things as creepy carrots," Mom said, shaking her head. Later that night, as Jasper lay in bed, he heard it. Breathing. Terrible carroty breathing. And there on his wall, "Creepy carrots!" he shouted. "Dad! Dad!" His dad thumped into the bedroom and threw on the light. They searched under the bed. No creepy carrots. They looked through their closet. No creepy carrots. They opened the dresser drawers. No creepy carrots. "Just a bad dream, son," his dad said, shaking his head. "Now go to sleep." That wasn't going to happen. Okay. Also, I just love this illustration. I don't know if you can really see this. But look at that. It is like my favorite illustration. I think it's so funny. Anyway, so he feels like they're following him, and he feels like he can like hear them behind him, like tunk, 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 like moving along. Anyway, it's referenced a couple times. The sound of them jumping is tunk, tunk, tunk. Anyway, so my students for this concert, which was based on food, we did this little poem. We went, "Creepy, creepy carrots, right behind you, here they come. Creepy, creepy carrots, tunk, tunk, tunk. Creepy, creepy carrots, right behind you, here they come. Creepy, creepy carrots, tunk, tunk, boo." Okay, so it's just silly, right? And then we added body percussion. We did "Creepy, creepy carrots, right behind you, here they come. Creepy, creepy carrots, tunk, tunk, tunk. Creepy, creepy carrots, right behind you, here they come. Creepy, creepy carrots, tunk, tunk, boo." Okay, so there are varieties of that too. We, instead of doing patting, clapping, and snapping, for the concert we did we added some stomping, not stomping, but we added like some stamping in there so that they were like moving ahead, and every page, every time we read or we did the little poem, they like advanced a little bit on the audience, and it was a cute and funny lesson. But it gave me a chance to do a little poem and then also add body percussion just so simply by "Creepy, creepy carrots, right behind you, here they come." So if you want to do it at a younger grade, I'd probably take the snapping out, because snapping can be really tricky, especially quick like that for younger grades. But there are a lot of fun things you can do with that book. It is like creepy, spooky, but like not Halloween. And there's a whole series of these books by Aaron Reynolds that's like the newest one that came out that's at our book fair literally right now is like Creepy Crayon. And there's some other like creepy books that's not listed in the back here, so I can't really tell you. But there are other creepy books, and kids like them. So it's another one that like can be done at Halloween. It is like spooky, but like not scary. There are no ghosts. There's no, Frankenstein or anything, but it is sort of spooky, scary, whatever, creepy, fun, without being actually scary. And it's not necessarily Halloween, but the book is black and orange, and it does have that vibe, so I think you could absolutely do it for Halloween if you want. But like I said, it's one that, like, this kid might, like a teacher's kid, heard one time, and, like, now can repeat it. I mean, so I guess it's memorable. I guess, like, it worked. But anyway, that's another way that you can do a Halloween story without making it too spooky or scary if you want. There's so many avenues. And there are a lot of books like this where you could take a book and add a little poem or add some body percussion or add a repeating pattern or add a melodic pattern, whatever. There are so many things that you can add if you want, if you don't want to do, like, the Ghost of Tom or Ghost of John or whatever you call it, and still sort of stay on that theme if you want. But like I said, the one thing I would avoid about Halloween is if you're gonna do Halloween stuff, don't teach that minor or modal sounds equal evil, sad, scary, bad. Because we want kids to think that, we don't want them to think that, like, major tonalities only are the right ones. So we want them to hear, like, oh, all sounds are great and all sounds are whatever. And kids don't have that preset in their head yet. And so if we continue to teach them, like, oh, this modal song, this major, or this minor song, whatever, it's a fun song and it's a great song, or it's an expressive song, whatever. Like, they don't have to think that those things are bad if we're careful about that. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to go link that blog post about the Pumpkin on the Vine song, cute little song, easy for younger grades. I'll also link the blog about the 5 Little Pumpkins, and I will continue to add to this book list about books for Halloween or Dia de los Muertos. If you have suggestions, please let me know. Due to your suggestions, I got a bunch of books from the library. I added a ton of books to my list for books that are about Asian Americans, Asians, or Pacific Islanders, and I just started bulking that list out. So there are a lot more books there I added in the last week or two. Check that out. That's on the links page. If you have great ideas for Halloween, let me know. I will add them in. Like I said, I just created that list today because I realized I didn't have one. So I will add more things to it of things that I know I already have or know that I already like, but I would love your suggestions too. Okay, I hope y'all enjoyed tonight and got something out of it, and I will see you next week. Thanks so much for coming along with me. Ooh, and thank you all for taking a second to go and rate this or leave a comment or whatever, because your ratings, your comments, your likes and whatever really help people find the podcast, people find the videos. It really, really is helpful. So if you're willing, thank you so much for doing that, and I will see you next week. Bye, everyone.